enhancing resilience in informal settlements. There's 3 ways to do that, and that's participatory in situ upgrading, the comprehensive and integrated upgrading, and then participatory relocation. The first way of participatory in situ upgrading is, for me personally, from my experience back home, is that this is the methodology that works the best, because it hears the voices of the people who are living in these informal settlements. It allows inhabitants to be involved in decisions affecting their daily lives. And when people are involved in decisions, they have buy-in, and you have innovative ways of causing change to happen. The other, and through people participating, you have simple changes that can lead to rapid changes. And when we need to move to the next slide, the example that we give in Indonesia, you will see that some of the simple changes, just through people participating in the daily lives, how this brings about big changes in people's lives. The second one is the comprehensive and integrated upgrading, which is more longer term, because it's citywide upgrading approach. And we know that with citywide upgrading approach, there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape, there's a lot of discussions, it's very complex, it very often requires a legal and institutional and a financial framework. However, I see that they're not, even though they're in separate boxes, they're not exclusive, because you can have participatory in situ upgrading taking place where you're consulting with the people on the ground, but you can also be looking at your comprehensive and integrated upgrading, your bigger projects upgrading, like your healthcare facilities that need to be put in there. And then you also have the participatory relocation, whereby people are relocated from these unsafe areas, the informal settlements. And this would be a last resort, because whenever you relocate people, it has such social impacts on people, because you have social and economical impacts, because when people are relocated, you're disrupting a community that they're fitting into, schools that the kids go to, networks that have been formed, workplaces where people work close to, because people usually living in informal settlements close to wherever they earn in some form of generating some form of income. If we can go to the next slide, please. We then have an example on the next slide, and we have an example of Subaria, which is in Indonesia, and I spoke about the first form of planning, which is your participatory in situ planning. And if you look at some of the simple upgrades that took place here, just from people participating also. So you can have your numbered housing, streets, septic tanks, your sturdy roof structures, bins for street waste collection, maintaining civil order, and this here can also be done through your public participation and through people participating, your public civil order in public spaces, your prefabricated drainage systems, tourism, traffic management improvements, addressing plastic waste, which could also generate some form of income, networking of paved, marked and clean streets. Now, the key elements which are relevant for cases in similar contexts is you're strengthening community resilience and integrating women's groups, which has been spoken about in previous lectures, the elders and other focal groups in all decision making. Strengthening creativity to find solutions adapted to local context and developing a local economy based on the community capacities, and in strengthening the linkages between community and the local governments. Throughout the morning, the common thread that we have spoken about throughout the morning is your stakeholder involvement. And you can see it coming through very strongly here, that if you have stakeholder involvement in your informal settlements, stakeholder consultation, stakeholder empowerment, other words that came through in the morning was leave no one behind. One of the things that I've put on the side here that we use very strongly in South Africa is nothing for us without us, whereby you hear the voices of the people on the ground. And that we're saying that every voice matters, because through every voice, we can have a much more resilient DRR. So in the yellow box, I said that the sustainable solution for DRR strategy is inclusion of all citizens, which is your public participatory institute upgrading. But as I say, that even though they're in separate boxes, your 3 separate boxes, I see that the first box, participatory institute upgrading and comprehensive and integrated upgrading, can be taking place simultaneously in informal settlements to have a sustainable solution for your DRR strategy. Thank you.